When a man is tackled from his motorbike by a man-eating tiger, a search ensues where they make a gruesome discovery. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying tiger attack on Afsarul Un Ahmad. Welcome to Final Affliction. In mid-2022, a man-eater was beginning to strike in and around the Corbett Tiger Reserve in India's Uttarakhand. The reserve has the highest population of Royal Bengal tigers in any of India's reserves, but now one of them had gone rogue. Nobody was safe. It had learned that humans were easy prey, but it didn't take advantage of some of our true vulnerabilities. A lone person walking through the forest or along a remote track would definitely be considered an easy target for the world's largest cat. But this tiger had a thirst for people zooming past on motorbikes. Perhaps the characteristic sound of a motorbike engine lured the tiger from the dense undergrowth and alerted it to the presence of humans. Perhaps it knew humans would be less alert driving along a highway than walking alone in the forest. Whatever the reason, the attacks on motorists began to stack up. On June 15th, a motorcyclist was plucked from his bike as he sped along an open road running alongside the reserve. He had been riding alone, and when he never returned home, his family grew worried. His upturned motorbike was discovered along the edge of the road, and a trail of flattened vegetation led investigators to his partially eaten body. Then, just 2 days later, on June 17th, two forest officials who were riding a bike were attacked. They were knocked to the ground by a pouncing tiger. Whilst one managed to flee, the other was killed and dragged off into the forest for the tiger to feast upon. The tiger had tasted human blood and was eager for more. But with so many locals living in and around the tiger reserve, many of them had no choice but to pass along the roads, right through tiger habitat. They risked their lives every day just going about their everyday business. And it wasn't just the adults going off to work or family engagements. There were schools located in the vicinity too. On Saturday, July 16th, two friends, Afsarul Un Ahmad and Mohammed Anas, traveled from their village of Jihal to Nainital for a day trip. They traveled by motorbike, taking one of the main roads near the reserve. As evening approached and dusk set in, the two of them headed for home. They took the main road via Ramnagar, which cuts through the Corbett National Park. Mohammed jumped onto the front of the bike, and Afsarul sat as the pillion passenger on the back. As they made their way along the highway just after 8 p.m., the sound of their motorbike could be heard across the reserve. The engine's rattling carried on the air, and in the dense woodland, a tiger pricked its ears. But this wasn't just any tiger. This was the tiger. It made its way through the undergrowth towards the sound. Camouflaged in the half-light and hidden by the vegetation, stealthily it moved into position for the perfect ambush. Then, as the two friends approached, it crouched down, ready to pounce. Mohammed and Afsarul were blissfully unaware that they were heading straight towards some of the most formidable jaws in the animal kingdom. In a flash, something hit them side on. The tiger had launched itself at the pair as they rode past. The force from the hit sent the bike careening across the road. Mohammed tried to correct it, but the wheels skidded and the bike crashed to the ground, sending the two men flying off it. They immediately leapt to their feet and came face to face with the tiger. Staring into the eyes of the beast, the two men knew they were in trouble. Standing 1 meter, 3 feet at the shoulder, and almost 3 meters, 10 feet long, it was an intimidating and terrifying sight. There was no way to right the bike in time. There was no way they could defend themselves against one of the most feared predators on the planet. Mohammed skirted around the opposite side of the bike, whilst Afsarul ran towards the front. As he did so, the tiger lunged forwards and grabbed him. Mohammed glanced over his shoulder, horrified to see his friend in the jaws of the beast. Afsarul let out a cry as the tiger sunk its teeth into his flesh, having canines up to 10 centimeters, 4 inches long. Bengal tigers can suffocate their prey in seconds. They typically approach their prey from the side or behind, and ambush them when close enough. They are powerful and incredibly strong, regularly taking down gaur and water buffalo, as well as sick or injured Indian elephants. The 25-year-old man was hardly going to be a challenge for the Royal Bengal tiger. As the tiger closed its jaws around Afsarul's neck and shoulder, he struggled to break free. He could feel the air being cut off from the vice-like grip of the animal. Just a second later, he was dragged into the undergrowth, still with some fight left in him. But he was fading, and it wouldn't be long before he was suffocated by the big cat. Muhammad ran from the scene. He ran as fast as he could to try and find help. There was nothing he could do to stop the tiger, and he could hear his friend's final cries as he ran away. Terrified and running for his life, Muhammad eventually made it to a forest department post. He banged on the door and barged inside the room, shaken and desperately begging for help. Immediately, a search and rescue team made up jointly of officers from the Ramnagar Forest Division and those from the Corbett Tiger Reserve rushed to the scene of the attack. They called out to Afsarul in the dark, but there was no answer. Only the breeze through the trees could be heard amongst the shadows. They stepped into the undergrowth, scanning the darkness with their flashlights. It wasn't long before they came across a bloodied mobile phone and Afsarul's bag. Continuing further into the reserve, their search led them to a river inside the forest. Scanning the bank, they stopped dead in their tracks. They had come across a gruesome discovery. 2 severed hands lay on the dirt. There was no sign of a body. There was no guarantee the hands belonged to Afsarul, but the chances were high, and they knew it. The search team decided it was safer to continue their search in the morning. It was an agonizing wait for Afsarul's family, as well as Muhammad, but deep down they all knew to expect the worst news. When news got out about the attack, officials warned people to stay away from the forest. It was too dangerous for people to venture there with a killer on the loose. It was up to the authorities to locate the tiger and relocate it, but that was no easy task. First, they had to find the victim. In the light of day, it was much easier for the rescue team to search for Afsarul. It wasn't long before they made their discovery. Just 300 meters from the road where the young man had been snatched lay his mutilated body. Next to him were his shoes. It was a horrifying finding, the one which the search team were expecting to find. Although the recent attacks were well known in the local area, it was still a shock to have yet another death confirmed. There was a village high school nearby, and there were concerns that the tiger would strike again. Officials circled the school grounds to keep the children safe, determined to stop the tiger from attacking again. Everyone had their eyes peeled, looking for the elusive tiger. 14 camera traps were installed in the area to try to locate the tiger, but it remained elusive. Perhaps it knew it was being hunted. It avoided capture, and the fear continued to grip the locals. Angry and frustrated from a lack of protection, locals blocked the road in a protest. They wanted a right to live free from fear. It seemed the reserve had competing interests, protecting a valuable species and bringing in tourism to the area, as well as lying alongside people's homes and routes to and from work. Was there a way the local government could protect them from the tigers? But as communities and settlements continue to expand into the tiger's territory, there is going to be more conflict, and tragically, India's endangered big cat will undoubtedly bring more locals to their terrifying final affliction.